I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry for not posting any Dragon Ball content in such a long time. Please do not be mad at me. I'm here to stay, talk about anime, nerd stuff, movies, TV shows, all that stuff with you guys. So don't worry, not taking no more breaks. Let's get into it. The last Dragon Ball Z saga we reviewed here and that I was watching with you guys was the Androids / Trunk saga. If you haven't watched that, peep that video. It's awesome. I honestly really like those sagas, and I actually really like the Trunks character, and also have been enjoying the whole Android plotline also. I think maybe me just liking Terminator a lot kind of factors into that as well. Also, before we get into it, obviously I did take a break from watching Dragon Ball and making these videos. Coming back to Dragon Ball, I obviously watched a little bit of Z and a little bit of Z Kai as well, kind of mixed them together. I gotta say, the intro for Z Kai is just so good here.
Don't stop, we're in luck now. Don't stop, there's so much to be found.
Before we get into it, if you guys could go ahead and subscribe and like the video, that'd mean the world to me. I work super long on these videos, watching them, taking notes, recording, editing, posting, all that stuff. So thanks for watching. Just go and subscribe and like, and all that stuff would be great. So the first part here is the Imperfect Cell saga. And we get tons of hints and winks to Cell in the previous Android saga, kind of weird rumors about this creature and that sort of thing, right? And we did find out a lot that was going on in the Android saga, but we still had tons of questions that weren't really answered at that time. And we jump into this saga with Piccolo trying to convince Kami to fuse with them to combine their powers and kind of create the full being that they were before they had split up in the original series. Again, I really don't know how you could watch Z without watching the original Dragon Ball show. I'm making a whole video also just on the original Dragon Ball series, and if you really need to watch it. Spoiler, I feel like you really should, especially to get the most out of this scene. You'd really like to see the original one first. But obviously, because we know the backstory of Kami and Piccolo, we know that them fusing together is a lot bigger of a deal than it probably seems at first. We have two completely different, conflicting ideologies, people, everything. So them coming together and fusing back together is a pretty big deal. And the only reason Kami even agrees to it is because he knows that it's pretty much their only option. They don't really have anything that they can do other than that. So I do understand here Kami is basically doing it purely out of the goodwill of wanting to save the Earth and save everyone else, which is the best thing for the Guardian of the Earth to really do. So Piccolo gets a huge power boost at the beginning of this saga. He gets the kind of knowledge and all this mental stuff that Kami had, but also the full physical strength of being Piccolo. So we kind of get the ultimate version of himself now, finally back. After that, we get a good amount of build up to a new time machine being found. And this is kind of the big thing, is like, how is there another time machine ship here? Future Trunks should be the only person here, right? Obviously now that's obviously Cell, and we know that now, but at the time when you're watching this, it's really kind of a really cool mystery theory thing, because you really genuinely don't know who that could be or where they're coming from, or if it's a friend or a foe, or you know what it may have. So I do like that part in the show where they're kind of figuring out where this time machine came from. And for me, that's the most interesting part about Cell and about the Cell saga and all this stuff, is that Cell's technically from the future. So for a long time in this portion of the show, I was really hoping to get some more future stuff. Again, I'm a hoe for Terminator, so maybe that's it. But I was hoping to get more future related content from Cell and Trunks, more than the initial dump that Trunks delivers when he first arrives. But we don't really get that, but it's still really cool still having a future character. So, and then we obviously get the big introduction of Cell. We see him start sucking people up.
Pause.
But we see him doing that. We see him gaining power and all these things, and killing and wiping out cities and that whole thing, right? And I think the eventual explanation we get for Cell being this kind of combination of all the most powerful warriors cells is really cool. And I do think it adds up to be kind of an interesting villain, because he's the first villain whose pure motivation, pure everything is just kill everything, destroy everything. Like Frieza kind of had like a conqueror's mindset, I guess. Still kind of the same vein. But this is the first time that we've actually had a villain that's completely just utterly destruction, 100% completely, other than like original Piccolo, I guess. But that's still original series. I do feel like it's a little bit, maybe not lazy, but a little bit on the nose and cliche to be like, okay, you had the big, you know, Frieza villain, what's there next? You know, let's just bring all the other people together and make one big villain. It does seem a little cookie cutter, I think, at first. But I think once you get through the story and you get through like the different variations of himself, it turns out to be a lot better. And because Piccolo gets that big power up in the beginning here, he does kind of have the job of holding Cell at least at a line while everyone else is still training in the time chamber. And obviously we know Piccolo's not going to be able to hold Cell completely, and he really gets defeated here, which is kind of sad, because he gets this huge power up, this huge moment with Kami happens. Just for him to get defeated is a little bit unfortunate, but it does kind of further drive home how powerful Cell actually is. So I do think it's better that Piccolo gets defeated here versus getting a really triumphant victory over Cell and then kind of having to downplay Cell a little bit. I think it's good that we keep putting Cell up at a high level, especially when we have other characters powering up also. But it does make me fear that Piccolo might not be as powerful as we think he is, or there might not be as much power there within the fusion of Kami and Piccolo to really warrant him doing it. So it is kind of unfortunate that it seems like it might be a little bit of a waste, but we'll see. Now I want to touch on Android 16 here, because he does do some fighting with Piccolo in kind of this section of the show. And I will say, I never fully understood Android 16, because when they were first showing him, it was like, this is the one that you guys cannot control. It's intense. It's insane. It's locked away for a specific reason. Do not touch Android 16. And I like, not to say I don't get it, I'm just not feeling it. Like, it just doesn't seem like he has any real power. Like, the fact that he was made to defeat Goku is insane here, because I honestly don't think he could even touch Goku even now or before. I don't know, they kind of overhyped Android 16, especially when compared to the other androids, and I just don't see it. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. And I will say the end of this like section of the show, seeing Tien kind of try to fight Cell is really cool. Tien is one of my favorite just low-key background side characters. I actually do really like him, but seeing him come in with his like Neo tri-beam ability and trying to further stall Cell is also really cool here, and it does kind of lend a little bit more to how powerful Cell actually is. The fact that we got Piccolo, Tien, and Android 16 both all trying to do their thing and all kind of not really doing a great job. And that's where the Imperfect Cell Saga comes to a close. And the Perfect Cell Saga pretty much picks up right where we left off. Tien is quickly weakened and quickly finds out that he's really not a match at all for Cell, and kind of gets dogged on a little bit. And just as Tien's about to die, Goku teleports in and saves him and Piccolo. And I will say, when Trunks and Vegeta get out of the time chamber, it is really sick. The whole team, basically everyone, gets new Saiyan armor, which is awesome. I love when the team has a really dope uniform. And then Vegeta and Trunks go ahead and rush in to try to take on Cell, while Goku and Gohan enter their turn in the chamber. And I also got to just say here, the whole Krillin not wanting to destroy Android 18 is so stupid. I hate this plotline of Krillin wanting to be with an android or liking the android. It's so, I hate it. Honestly, this is easily one of the worst things they've done with the Krillin character. I would have much rather them just pushed Bro to the side and made him not relevant than making him a love interest for a villain. I'm not feeling it at all. Like, I get it, little dude wants a girl, but like...
Are you a robot? Are you a robot woman?
I am not a robot.
And we do get some cool lines here, especially one from Vegeta, like acknowledging Trunks' power. I love that. I love when Trunks gets his flowers from his dad, because his dad's an asshole and doesn't ever give props to his son. So I do love when we do get that tiny bit of that. It's just, I love it. It just gets really annoying seeing Vegeta speed running to be the worst dad possible, especially because Naruto's also doing that with Boruto. Like, all these anime dads are just horrible fathers in every way. And I don't know if just because DBZ is an older anime that like maybe this like writing and storytelling wasn't that bad back then, but looking at it with a more modern lens, it's just horrible and annoying and frustrating. Every time Vegeta just opens his mouth, I just want to put the TV on mute and just go home and walk away, and just, I can't. And also, just to further drive home how much of an idiot Vegeta is here, the fact that he purposely allows Cell to absorb another android just for the pure sake that Vegeta really wants to be able to take down Cell in like the highest form possible. So he's willing to let him absorb someone else to get even stronger. Like, bro, that's just gonna make this harder for everyone. Like, I don't know, he does that, and then Goku also later on gives him a sensu bean to heal himself. It's stupid. Like, the fact that this whole team annoys me in some ways, that just really frustrates the watching experience of the show, because it's like, realistically, why would you do that? This doesn't make sense. Even if you were a bad character, a horrible character, a selfish character, it just still doesn't make sense. So, not loving Vegeta right now. And there's even a part in here where Cell and Trunks are fighting, and then Vegeta starts fighting Trunks too, because Trunks wants to just take out Cell, just get rid of him completely, which is like the normal thing, and Vegeta wants to let him heal up and absorb the other android to become even more powerful, so then Vegeta can take on an even more powerful villain. And then now we got Trunks fighting Vegeta, his dad, who's on his side, fighting also the villain. It's just a whole thing. Vegeta's horrible in this part of the show. I'm sorry if I keep saying that, but I don't know what you want me to say. And it is honestly so heartbreaking when you really get down to it and think about it, because all Trunks wants is a good relationship with his dad. That's purely all he wants, is just to sit down and have a heart-to-heart or a good relationship with Vegeta. And the fact that Vegeta openly, continuously like blocks that it is really sad, honestly, when you think about it, especially being that dude came from a whole different timeline just to save his dad, and everyone else to still be kind of treated poorly is just and because Vegeta's dumb, he does get his shit rocked by Cell. And I do like this part here when Trunks gets Super Saiyan 3rd grade, and he immediately thinks just because he's more powerful, he has more strength, that he can take on Cell easily and just dominate him. But then Cell kind of further on explains that it's not just the pure strength that's making him, you know, win or lose. It's a lot more than that. It's the speed, it's how you use that strength, it's all that stuff. So I think that's actually a cool learning experience for Trunks, especially because Trunks is still, while he's from the future, he's still a young fighter and still isn't super experienced. So I think him kind of learning more as he goes is always really interesting. And it's also really cool here because I think for the longest time the show's kind of been purely about who's the strongest character. That's all it's really been. So I think here it almost is like self-acknowledging itself, it's self-aware maybe, that it's for the longest time putting strength over everything, and now it's finally getting to a point where all of these characters are decently strong, you know. Now it's more about how you're using that strength, how you're using your other abilities in tandem with your strength. And then with Trunks being essentially almost defeated fully by Cell, Cell announces that he's going to be holding, his own Cell games, and that this event, martial art tournament thing, will begin in 10 days. And it kind of announces that everyone should get ready, train, because, the full final showdown is coming. And that closes out the Perfect Cell saga, and then obviously introduces us to the Cell game saga. So in the beginning here, Gohan and Goku end up getting out of the time chamber. In this part, I kind of love Goku. Honestly, I just love this part where he openly is like, yeah, we still probably can't fight Cell, and I'm still probably too weak to fight him, and he still probably is stronger than me. I just love how honest Goku is at some points, where he's even just gonna say,
all I can do right now is put on a brave face and go out there and be their leader.
It's over. We are screwed.
But we do kind of get the hint and vibe, especially almost every other character picks it up, that Goku's not fully being honest with everyone, that he is definitely hiding something that he's figured out in the time chamber with Gohan. So everyone's kind of feeling a little bit suspect over Goku. He's definitely hiding something, and he's not fully telling the truth. So they kind of just brush it off, but I think everyone's aware that there's something in the background. And so our team decides to rest basically and train further for the Cell game saga, and Piccolo does enter the chamber. Now while our team is resting, Goku goes ahead and grabs Dende from the Namek saga and basically brings him over and makes him the new guardian of the earth, kind of taking over Kami's spot, because as of right now, because Kami's not there, they don't have access to the Dragon Balls. So they get Dende there to basically still be able to use the Dragon Balls in case anyone dies or anything big happens in this fight with Cell. They can use the Dragon Balls to kind of reverse some things. Now when the Cell games do end up eventually starting, we get the big introduction here to Mr. Satan. And I don't know why, I had heard so many people talk about this character. I had seen his name get dropped pretty often. I don't know, just me being kind of like into anime, I've heard of his name a lot. So honestly kind of expected something cool to come out of him being there, but he ends up basically just being a complete fraud. And while this was surprising, it did still kind of make me laugh a little bit. Just having some comic relief in there while everything's going on is still fun, and I still found him at least enjoyable. He definitely did not take away from this part of the show. And then Goku and Perfect Cell do end up fighting for a decent amount of time until the arena basically breaks, and Goku's pretty much throwing every single thing he can at Cell, up to the point that Cell believes that Goku's going to launch like a huge Kamehameha wave at the earth directly where Cell's standing. But then Goku kind of does an instant transmission and basically just point blanks bro directly in the face. It's pretty crazy, and I love this scene. It's actually really cool. But because obviously Cell has Piccolo DNA inside of him, he's able to regenerate himself rather quickly. Doesn't really do too much, but it is still cool, like in terms of the spectacle of it, and kind of the way that Goku strategizes around Cell. And pretty much after this, Goku throws in the towel and just says, you know what, I can't beat Cell. I am not powerful enough to beat Cell, but there is someone else that is. And then he basically just says, I'm gonna send my 10-year-old son out there to fight this demon from space god guy thing. He basically kicks fucking Gohan to the curb and just tells him to go fight Cell basically. And I mean, I guess he's still not the worst dad in the show, because we still have Vegeta. And the team, especially everyone else, is not happy about this at all. Now, personally, when I was watching this, I actually kind of trust Goku. I don't think Goku's dumb enough, or like Vegeta, to where he'd put his own son in danger purposely, but he quickly kind of fucks with my mind, because he tells Gohan to go and fight Cell, but then when he does that, he gives Cell a sensu bean, so Cell is fully healed now. So whatever Goku did damage-wise to Cell is not relevant anymore. He's fully healed now to fight Gohan, so they have a fair fight. And then now I believe he's on par with Vegeta as far as who's the worst dad, because he's openly did a decent amount of damage to Cell to where that could have helped Gohan and gave Gohan kind of an edge. And he's purposely saying, nah, dude, if this planet gets destroyed and we all die, it's your fault, bro, because you're gonna fight a fair fight. And I just don't get why he would do that to his son. The dads in Dragon Ball are just awful. I think the only good dad is probably the Ox King, and that's just because he's not here in the show that much anymore. But wow, it's just really dumb, because he goes on to keep the secret that Gohan has some secret power, that Gohan's the only one that can really defeat Cell, right? But then he's also purposely making it harder for Gohan to defeat Cell by healing Cell. So it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow anything as far as what Goku would do and why he would do it. It's super out of character for him. I don't really have much more to say that's positive on this part. I really hate Goku right here. Wow. And so the plan here is basically to let Gohan get his shit rocked by Cell so many times that Gohan becomes enraged and kind of unleashes a hidden power that he has inside of him. And the one thing that makes Gohan snap and become enraged is Cell killing Android 16. And this also just doesn't make much sense to me. Android 16 and Gohan never really had a relationship. And sure, Android 16 does give a decently cool, thematic, inspiring speech before he dies. I just don't feel like that's enough, or that's at the level to where he would go crazy. So I just don't buy it. I feel like either Goku should have died there or someone else should have died at that moment to kind of signal and give Gohan that enraged feeling. I don't think Android 16 was the right character for that. It just seems a little bit doesn't connect. I don't know. But either way, when Gohan does power up, it becomes a whole different game now. He's pretty much stomping the yard on Cell, like completely. Like, he's fucking murdering Cell so badly that Cell literally coughs up one of the androids that he absorbed, and that actually drops him down back to like a different imperfect form, or the semi-perfect form of Cell. So Gohan's literally beating Cell's ass so badly that Cell regressed into a lesser version of himself. That's pretty awesome, honestly. And Cell, being an insecure little bitch, decides to do kind of the Predator thing, to self-explode himself and everyone around him and destroy the earth basically with a explosion from his body. And then Goku jumps in and does an instant transmission to kind of send him, Goku, and the Cell explosion body to King Kai's palace or whatever that place is, right? So that way the earth doesn't get hurt when he explodes. And it just still doesn't make sense to me, because if Goku has instant transmission and can jump with the Cell body that's about to explode to King Kai's place, couldn't he also just jump back to earth and just let him explode in King Kai's place? But in that same instance, couldn't he use instant transmission to teleport him and Cell's body to where the planet Namek Saga took place, like that just big space area, because it's all destroyed now, there's nothing there, and just kind of let that explode in space, because obviously Namek is destroyed, it's not a thing anymore, so he can launch that big Cell bomb there and then teleport back or whatever. I just feel like, of all places, King Kai's place doesn't really make sense, and for Goku to just tank the bomb straight on doesn't make sense either. He easily could just teleport away. So I'm questioning Goku's like actions this entire saga. It just doesn't align with what I think he would do, or with what's most rational or makes sense. I don't know, the writing feels like it's a little bit falling apart here for me. But either way, it doesn't really matter, because Cell comes back to Earth and is still there and everything, because when he explodes, there's like a little atom of himself that's left that can regenerate and bring himself back. So he actually comes back even stronger back to Earth and pretty much just launches a death beam directly at Trunks' chest. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really scared for future Trunks here. I really love his character, and being that he's from the future, I was thinking that there might be some issues bringing him back with the Dragon Balls, just because if he's from the future, there could be like some weird thing where it's like you can't bring back someone that technically isn't born yet, or like technically his version of himself isn't here, and like this whole weird thing. Shenron and the Dragon Balls always have weird rules every now and then, so I thought that was gonna kind of get in the way and that this was the end of future Trunks. I was actually really scared for him. But either way, we get one last Kamehameha wave from Gohan to Cell, and they're kind of just going back and forth with these waves of just energy. But with encouragement from like his dad and the team kind of helping him out, he is able to overpower Cell and fully disintegrate him, so that should kind of stop any sort of regeneration abilities that Cell might have. And with that, our team wins and the Cell games saga comes to a close. And I will say, Dragon Ball Z feels like it almost planned to end here, because honestly, this is a perfect ending for the show as far as like where it leaves everyone. I genuinely feel like if someone was watching Dragon Ball and they got to this Cell saga and they stopped at Cell games and finished it, I feel like it'd be a satisfying conclusion somewhat. Obviously, I mean, there's still tons of story left, but I don't think this is a bad place to stop watching the show. I mean, obviously, if you want to keep watching, but if Dragon Ball never went past the Cell game saga and just ended there, I still feel like it would be a pretty good show. Now, in the aftermath of them killing Cell and finally getting the Dragon Balls and everything like that from Dende, they do try to wish Goku back, but Goku actually says, no, I don't want to come back. I'm cool being dead. Do not revive me. And his reasoning is that he doesn't feel like he can train Gohan much more. He feels like he's been able to give Gohan everything that he can, and that he also feels like he attracts more evil than anything. I actually kind of agree with Goku here. I do think that this is a good choice for him, and I do understand his reasoning here. However, I think when you look at it, that Goku was an orphan that grew up with no dad pretty much at all. He did have, his grandpa for a little bit, but obviously for majority of his adult life, he really didn't experience having a dad. I feel like that would make him want to be there, even just as a father figure for his son. It's just, I don't know, that like, I understand his reasoning to not come back totally, and I'm not against that choice. I just feel like the Goku that I know from the original series and from Dragon Ball Z would want to stay with his son. I just don't see why he wouldn't. But either way, the team says their goodbyes. They are able to resurrect and bring back Trunks, and he does end up going back to his own timeline. Tien says his goodbyes and basically says, you guys will never see me again, most likely. And everyone just kind of goes their separate ways. All is safe. Everything is resolved by the end of this saga. Now, I know I did kind of hate a little bit on Vegeta and Goku, and those are my two main issues with this show, or at least the saga right now, is just Vegeta as a dad and as a character has just constantly been annoying, and Goku has some really weird choices made in this saga, I still do like this part of the show a lot. I think it really made me feel a lot for Gohan. I actually really didn't like Gohan initially when they first introduced him. I thought he was going to be a big annoying brat, but he's actually one of my favorite characters, and I'm surprised because I usually hate kid characters in anime, but I loved his character here and I really want to see him more in the show, so I'm looking forward to that. I also think them kind of switching it around and making Cell like the big bad villain instead of the actual androids themselves was really cool, because when they pitched the androids initially, I was kind of like not super excited for them. They really didn't make me excited to watch the show or anything like that, but seeing Cell kind of come out of that was really cool, and I did like his character a lot more than the androids characters, so that was dope. Overall, apart from Vegeta being a weird annoying guy and Goku having some really questionable choices, I really did like this saga. I thought every character did their part. I enjoyed every moment with every character other than the handful that I mentioned, and I do think this does a good job of building up the story and building up our team even further. The one thing I can say is that I didn't love about it is that it doesn't make me want to continue watching Dragon Ball. Namek Saga ends with, you know, the introduction of Trunks and this whole thing, and Android Saga ends with the introduction of, you know, Cell. Like, there's a lot of cliffhangers at the end of these sagas that kind of push me and reward me as a watcher to continue watching. This one really doesn't. It kind of just like ends, and it's your choice whether or not you want to continue watching. There's really no lingering thing that they tease at the end of this or that they show as a potential thing for the next episodes or anything like that. So that's the one thing. I don't think the saga did a great job at making me want to continue my Dragon Ball journey, but obviously I'm still going to be doing that for these videos and for my own enjoyment too, because I do like the show a lot. Overall, it's a great saga. I still think my favorite out of Dragon Ball is the Namek Saga. It's just so hard to beat that portion of the show. It's just so fun. It's just so action-packed. Here, there is a ton of action. There is a ton of things going on, but I think some things like, again, Goku's decision making and Vegeta just kind of bring it down a little bit, and Cell is just at such a high power level in this section of the show that characters like Yamcha and even Piccolo and Tien don't really pose a big threat to him, and they really can't do too much. That's unfortunate, but I do like this part of the show still, and I'm still excited to continue watching Dragon Ball. So go and subscribe and like this video. I got more Dragon Ball content coming. I'm going to be reviewing, hopefully after this, the next saga. I'm not sure which one it is, if it's the Majin Buu saga or what it is. I also got tons of One Piece content coming soon. Just dropped the Water 7 saga review. You guys can watch that here, and I'm also posting more anime content videos as often as I can, so stay tuned for all that, and thanks for watching to the end.